does say something, yeah.
Hello.
Okay, that's fine. That seems to be working my end. Can you guys hear us now anyway? If we
No Yan though.
Streamception. Hopefully they can now hear. Yeah, I tested it before, honest guys. I tested it and yes, it
We
works
did
now.
test it. Okay,
Thank
so we're
you.
gonna have to
Thank you.
start again. Okay, so thank you very much for letting us know about Streamception. Unfortunately, we didn't know what Streamception meant, so we mucked it up. So let's start that again. Hello, everybody. I hope now you can actually hear us properly. Welcome. We're going to be a little bit loopy for a variety of reasons. I'm on a lot of decongestants because I caught a head cold over the weekend. It's mostly better now, but my throat's a bit weird. And today we're going to be talking about music and particles, or particles, which is the new pronunciation and spelling.
Yes.
And the reason we're talking about these is Michael's been working on the LMMS course for the Your Godot 4 Action RPG, and I've been working on some particles to get ready for the Magic System. So that's the plan for today.
Yes, and what you may have missed was that the what Jan's done today is he's sent out people and brought them into the course using your Kickstarter emails. So if you're on the lifetime backer or the back catalogue, you will have received an email today enrolling you in those courses. However, if you've used a different email to that which you use on Teachable, then just give us a shout and we can happily sort that out and merge it all together. I'm doing really well today. Let's turn off my notifications. Go away, world. You guys stay. You stay. The rest of this lot can go. There we go.
So yeah, I think we should start with something fun. You want to start with particles, or you want to start with music?
I think we should start with the particles because I want. I'm really excited by these particles. Now, obviously, it will be a different system when it comes to Godot 4. So
Yeah.
these are
These are me playing around.
play-
I'm going to share my
play
screen.
samples. Yeah.
Bear in mind, we are going through Discord, so you are going to get a much lower version of what's happening here. Now, you can see these particles
Yes.
in the particle showcase scene, which if you run the game is this button here. I'm just going to open particle showcase right now.
Let me share the
Particles.
screen and also that and then this. Excellent.
Okay. So these are the particles I've been making so far. That one's in the wrong place. Just speed up, thank you. And I'm just playing with different ideas of how to do particles in Godot. In Godot 4, we're going to have a bunch of different things we can do. There's different emitters. There's collision particles. Nope, collision particles. But these are just, playing with some ideas. And I've used both the standard Kenny brushes that everyone uses, and I've found some free CC0 brushes on GIMP, or a couple that I have the rights to. And I've just been playing with them. I quite like them. Like, some of these are a lot more fun than others, but if I switch on the animation player,
Brilliant.
like that,
Yes.
we actually see these. And we can, if we want, just zoom around in 3D space. So we come out the camera preview and just move around. And what I thought would be fun is we could make one together right now. So let's make a particle. Let's do it live. So what I'm going to do is make a new 3D scene, and I'm going to call this live stream particles. Right. And I'm going to make a particle. I haven't planned any of this. What I have done is I've just made a new particle texture, which I called smear.
Nice.
And the reason I called it smear is I just made something with a couple of brushes in GIMP and threw it together. There's no plan here. I don't know what I'm going to be making. I was going to say I don't know what I'm doing. That's not entirely true. It's a terrible thing to say when I'm trying to teach people. But I don't know where we're going yet. So I'm going to make process material, and I'm going to make a quad mesh. And this needs a material. And there we go. We're done. No, we're not done. I need a special material. And why aren't you moving? There we go. Okay, cool. So we have a particle material. It's doing the standard thing of just applying gravity and nothing else. So for now, we'll turn off gravity. And the first thing I want to do is I want to apply this smear. Let's go in here and standard things. I'm going to turn on transparent because we have transparent texture, and unshaded because I don't want it to react to light. This is a particle. I'm also going to use as albedo. That's going to allow me to keep this texture white and use the color parameter in the shader, not the shader, in the particle, which is going to give me access to a whole bunch of things we can do. Finally, let's turn on billboard mode. And this is the one that always throws me. You don't want my billboard, you want particle billboard. Otherwise, it won't work. We can, if we want, change the blend mode from mix to add. I'm going to do that for now because I think it's going to give us a more fun thing. I am very woozy.
That's fine.
Good. Okay, so here is our little smear image. We've got 8 of these adding to each other, so it's ultra bright. So let's start by doing some stuff. And I'm going to say the angle is 360 degrees, randomized. So now it can be anywhere on that 360 degrees. And let's say we want to... Should we ramp the color? What do you guys think? I can't see chat. Let's ramp the color.
They all said yes.
I mean, I don't think you could see it yet either, but that's fine. Let's make a color ramp. So new gradient texture. And I'm going to stick it within our color palette because I've done everything else in the color palette. Let's do that. So here's my color palette for our RPG. And let's play with these yellows. So I'm going to start with the yellow.
Ooh.
Nice gold color.
I love how things start to appear just as you're playing with it.
So I've just picked these 2 random colors. I have no idea how this is going to look yet. But at present, that just doesn't work, right? That's a very sort of 1970s cartoon. So let's put in a scale curve. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, instead of just popping in and out of existence, let's put in a couple of nodes near the beginning and end. And I'm just going to zoom that in and zoom it out. So now we should get something looking a little bit more organic.
Oh.
Okay. And one more thing I want to do with this, let's take the angular velocity. And let's say you can move up to 90 degrees. So you can move up to 10 degrees. Just to give it a little bit of motion.
So that curve there that's on the scale curve, is that where it says 0 to 1? Is that just the lifetime of the particle?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. So if I make this a much slower particle, or even a much slower particle, I don't like going this slow because it kind of shows, you know, the smoke and mirrors.
Might need some more particles to make that.
Yeah. I mean, we could go 64, which is now a sun, and then over 8 seconds. But even then, we're adding these together, so it's going to look weird. So let's say 16.
Oh, nice. I like the way that started. So
yeah,
just for those who don't know what addition is going to be doing to the actual texture here, is if something is already a value of 1, it will add 1 again, so you end up with an RGB value of 2, which we cannot see in this color space.
It ends up as white.
It'll end up
well,
white.
let's see. Let's put it back to mix. If I put this in mix, we have a very muddy texture, right? Yeah. Because of the 2 colors I've picked, it's not going to work. We could also go subtraction.
Oh, I like the edge of that. That's awesome.
Right. In this case, I think addition is probably best, but we have too many particles going on here. So let's put you down to 4. That's too slow, isn't it? You know what? We'll probably go even smaller. No. So we're on a fine balancing line. So when I'm making the particles, this is what I'm doing. I know what these parameters are doing, and I'm just playing with them a little bit. I don't want to do explosiveness because that's going to make each particle come out at the same time, which is going to give us this effect. Which is fine, but at this point, just make that brush, right? Like, that's not what we're trying to do here. Another thing I could do is I could add more colors or different colors or alpha the colors out. Let's try... something truly weird.
I'm getting a kind of a cyberpunk vibe from that. The mixture.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So these are how we're making our particles at the moment. And what I can do is I can add separate particles to it. So if we take a look at some of the particles I've already made, and I'm just going to go to, let's see, Bloom Burst. It's just a watercolor texture with some basic star sparks. And it's basically the same technique we've seen before. We've also got these bubbles.
Nice.
And all I've done here is I've said, okay, you have a direction going up. Let's randomize the velocity a little bit. And we're just taking this image here and we'll fade in or scale in and then pop. And just before they pop, they get slightly bigger just because it amused me. This one I quite like because I just made a weird texture like that. And because they're spinning in a random direction, the actual angular velocity is randomized.
It's really good. All of those little circles there do look like they're kind of not linked together. If you knew what you were looking for, you could probably see the fact that there are 5 of them that move around together. But with their chaotic behavior, that saved you the...
And there's a lot of happy little accident going on here, right? Like, at first I put them in, and it just had this lovely, like, circle around this ball. But then when I started playing with it, I got this very confused effect. We got this. And this is just 3 particles very, very, very quickly, right? So each one lasts for 0.1 seconds. We've got the frost ball, which is actually a very similar thing, but I've got a radial velocity drawing sparks into it, which makes it look a little colder.
It looks like you're charging something up.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty awesome.
This thing takes a few seconds to get started, but once it does, I kind of like this. Like, I don't know what it is yet, but it looks really sinister.
I could imagine that being projected on the ground, you know, when you're charging up some sort of spell.
And I'm also a big fan of this one.
The Skelly boss has got to have that, hasn't he?
This one uses black and subtraction, so we get a nice little ink blob thing going on. Some of these are designed to move. The ice bolt is as well, so when I grab this, it goes zoop, zoop. What else do we have? Magic ball. Pretty simple. This is actually what the boys are using right now.
Ah, nice.
What's this one? Oh, right. This weird plant ball.
Plant ball.
This is a square texture. I've just made a nice little spirograph.
Again, it looks like a great thing that you could potentially have on the ground as like a rune. Is that the right terminology for a cast?
Yep. Here I've decided to make some sort of weird vortex thing. And all we have is this swirl and that image there. The swirl is one of Kenny's particles like this. There are exactly 2 of them. There's no randomization. It's very, very fixed. And because the lifetime is set to the same, to work with the rotation, you don't notice that one's dying and the other's appearing at exactly the same spot. So you've got 2 images that are perfectly in sync at all times.
That's nice.
A couple more to show you. There's this one, which I just think is fun. There's this, which is kind of stylized, but it's going to be used somewhere.
Reminds me of smoke or dust. So perhaps when our
maybe
running around?
Maybe when she's moving around, or when you sprint, maybe. This one, I'm not quite sure what these sparkly bits are, but they're going to be used for something. And I think
this one moves, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of these are very stylized, and then there's this, which I just... And again, in the center here, it's subtracted. So, and I'm coming out of shared display now, Michael, just to give you fair warning.
There's another button here I need to push. There's me. Okay.
So the reason I'm showing these is these aren't going to be in the final pack. Oh, Michael, where'd you go? What'd you do?
I don't know what I did. Oh, I pushed the wrong button. That's what I did.
Here's the top of my head.
Oh dear, what's gone on now? There's just 2 of you. I don't know where my camera's gone.
Okay, so I'm not going to look at that because that's really distracting. The main reason I'm showing you this is we're not going to be using this in the final project because we're going to have to remake these all from for Godot 4 anyway. So the plan is to just put these in a pack and let you guys play with them. Like, this isn't part of the particles asset pack. It's just, here's some particles you can play with, learn from, tinker with, and mess around with. I was going to do that this weekend, but I've been in bed for most of it, so it'll be over the next couple of days. But that's my plan, so you guys can play with some particles. These are all 3D particles. They will not work in 2D. So if you want to work them in 2D, you can either recreate them, or you can make a 3D scene and use some viewports and be fancy.
That'd be awesome. So, have we got any questions on the particles, I suppose, before we move on to anything else, to just make sure that we're keeping things together? Is there any that you particularly like? Any that you think are missing? Any requests? Not that we can honour every request, but some ideas, perhaps, if we've not covered a specific genre, not a genre of particle, but maybe of a spell or something along those lines.
It should be said, I don't actually know what most of these are going to be used for. I just made a bunch of particles so that when I start playing with magic, I'll have some effects. Like, I'm pretty sure there'll be some lightning somewhere. I suspect bubbles will be useful for something.
When you eventually do go under the water, bubbles. So yes, I'm really impressed of what we can achieve in just Godot 3 at that point, and what we can do in Godot 4. So you mentioned collision particles earlier, Jan, and that's something I'm really excited by. I've seen some examples with like rain particles bouncing off of surfaces, like or a street or a car bonnet or something along those lines. So it'd be amazing to see sort of things like splash effects as well when we something hits the surface and cascades away.
So yeah, I mean, Governor is asking what's the biggest difference between the particle system in Godot 4 and Godot 3. I also quite like Gerard's idea of waterfall with bubbles.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That would be fun. There's a lot of differences. I think the biggest one for me is collision particles, where you put in a special collision on an object, and then the collision particle will bounce off that in real time. So you could do, for instance, rain on a rooftop, or you could do moving through fog.
Yeah.
Or you could do a fire blast dissipating off a shield. You know, there's all kinds of fun things you can do with that. There's also secondary particle effects you can fire off, which I haven't played with yet, but Games from Scratch did a really cool video on them a little while back, and they're awesome. And honestly, I haven't played with particles in Godot 4 in a few months, so they've probably added some more things, which is why I'm thinking we're not just going to transfer these across. I'm going to take what I've made with the brushes and what I've learned and just make some from scratch.
Well, that's often the case with any project like this. When you're moving from one version of anything to another, you've got the core ideas there, the core concepts, but the actual creation of them. A great example is just moving materials. If you've made some materials over in Blender, as we've Jan and I, we've been going backwards and forwards recently. It's like, Mike, you've given me a different wood material than the one you had before. You've named it wood, something slightly different, maybe two spaces in there, and so I don't know how to map them. So taking materials from one program to another program is another example how things don't always match up exactly how you want them to. So it's always best to test these things and make lots of mistakes and learn from those mistakes.
And hello, Roderick. By the way, is my keyboard too loud? I have a new keyboard.
What keyboard?
My typey.
No, I haven't heard it at all.
So yeah, I'm really pleased with the particles. They're a lot of fun to play with. I do recommend you sort of get some basic brushes or make some basic brushes in GIMP or Photoshop. The 5 circles one I made had this lovely effect. So just, or a square. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. I do recommend playing with them, and I will get you those free ones in the next few days.
Oh, and speaking of keyboards, we can segue to some
nice segue. You've got your little thingy.
So so as we go over to the music stuff, obviously I've got one of these. I've got a bigger one down there. I was going to lift that one up and thought, no, something will go wrong. I've already. I
want that to be one of the ones you blow into.
I think I'll get shot if I had one of those in the house. But yeah, so I've got one of these. This isn't going to be essential for the music course, much like we want it to be as accessible as possible, just the same as drawing benefits from a tablet. Yep. Music would benefit from some sort of input device. But you can just draw on what's called a piano roll. So you basically write the notes down and put their lengths in. So we've been thinking about how to approach a music course, especially as we want to make sure that someone without musical training can join in, essentially. I don't want to say a word like arpeggio without first defining it. Unfortunately, there are tools within LMMS. Is that the right number of M's? Anyway, with that Lmms.
Lmms.
Lmms. So there are tools in there. So we're going to be explaining tools as well as a bit of theory, as well as actually putting together some pieces of music. And there are loads of different ways you can approach any sort of composition. And like most things, there's no right or wrong when it comes to this. But we're thinking more along the lines of having a very structured and formulaic approach that you can then branch out from with your own ideas. There are several things. I'm not going to read everything out on my crazy long list at the moment.
While you're getting that list ready, we do have a suggestion here from Foreigner, which is a great name, by the way. I hope you link the model of that mini keyboard. I think you should put a link to it in the course just in case people do have the spare cash and want to get it.
Yeah.